Is Misha Henri de Brew agus is dulta mé Maiollia. My name is Henry Burrows and I'm a student here in Dublin. Like everybody else in Ireland, I learned Irish in school because it was compulsory. I went to an English-speaking school for 14 years, but everybody in the school has to do Irish. In primary school, up to the age of 12, it is taught as quite a conversational language, and people learn it by osmosis as they would with English. People don't speak it at home. It's not learned at home in the main, in the majority. But in school it's taught as quite a fluid thing, and it's something you pick up. When you transfer then into secondary school, it becomes more as you would learn a new European language. It becomes much more structured. It becomes more like French or German or whatever. You learn the verbs off. You learn the way sentences work. It changes tack, and I think quite a few people get lost in that changeover from primary school into secondary school. Irish was never meant to be learnt as that sort of a subject. In the 1920s, when Ireland was a new country, they set up a commission to make up the rules of Irish, essentially. There are 4 different types of Irish from 4 different parts of the country, and they took the rules of the 4 different, they all came together in Dublin and made up the rules. So Irish isn't really meant to be taught like that. My enthusiasm for Irish came not from school, but from when I went to the Gaeltacht. In Ireland there are 7 different areas where Irish is supposed to be the first language in Ireland. Constitutionally it is the first language of the country. But there are 7 areas in Ireland where it is meant to be the day-to-day language where everybody talks. And these are all rural areas. There's no urban Irish at all. But in the summer, thousands of Irish school children go to these rural areas for 3 weeks to go and learn the language. And in those areas it reverts again to being that more conversational approach to learning the language. And a lot of people pick up enthusiasm for it there in a way they can't do in school. And certainly that was the case with me. And I went twice to these Gaeltachts to learn about Irish. But because Irish is quite a difficult language to learn, and because of the way it's taught in schools, it can be quite hard for it to become accessible. If you're not very good at it, it can be quite hard to find other people who aren't very good at it but are also eager. So you have those who are very good at it and will talk away to each other, and those who've gone to Irish schools and that sort of thing. But if you are of a middling standard but still enthusiastic, there's a sort of snobbery about Irish that's become a thing that a certain club of people do, those who can speak it fluently, and it's hard to access that club. But in saying that, it can never be a disadvantage to have Irish, no matter how good it is. In Ireland for a long time you couldn't get a job in the civil service, you couldn't get a government job without Irish, you couldn't become a police officer without Irish, you couldn't become a teacher without Irish. Still, for some of the universities in Ireland, you still have to have passed Irish. So there is that institutional snobbery perhaps for some people, but also it can never be a bad thing to know Irish. In Ireland there's this constant debate as to how to preserve the Irish language into the future and to make it a more living language. And currently the government are saying they're going to stop Irish being a compulsory subject in school. But I think it is very important that we keep enthusiasm for the subject, because it is something that is uniquely ours. And for so long we were historically a country that were under another country, and Irish became a symbol of pride and of identity for Irish people. And sometimes we identified ourselves in any way that wasn't British. It didn't matter what it was to be Irish, it only mattered not being British. And I think to preserve that sense of signing up to being Irish, to want to be Irish, and to continue that heritage, and the language being part of the culture is very important. There's an old saying in Irish, what's called a seanachal, which says Tír gan seangas, tír gan anam. A country without a language is a country without a name. And I do think that is a very important part of who we are as Irish people.